Not only did Mr. Dodson not show any remorse during his testimony, during the trial, I caught him sleep several times. He was getting his rest while we were getting justice.
A self-proclaimed serial killer sentenced to more than 100 years in prison for the death of a teenager and her unborn baby. In August, Fox 13 reported that a jury found Joshua Dodson guilty for these two murders.
Now, we also told you that he testified in his own defense. He called himself a serial killer during that testimony. Fox 13 investigative reporter Kayla Solomon was in court today as he learned his fate.
You're looking at the face of Joshua Dodson, a man who calls himself a serial killer. Dodson is 25 years old and will spend the rest of his life in prison. Our camera was the only one in the courtroom to capture the reactions of the man who told a jury 2 months ago that he was responsible for killing 5 people.
He is a serial killer. He's Michael Myers, remember? That's what he told me.
Judge Carolyn Addison sentenced Dodson to more than a century in prison.
Mr. Dodson accepted responsibility for his conduct. He did not have to take the witness stand.
But he did take the stand at trial. The jury quickly returned a guilty verdict for Dodson killing an ex-girlfriend and her unborn child in 2020. But he also told the jury he killed 3 people before that.
He had no remorse while he was up there on the stand. He stated he was a serial killer. He likes killing women. He had no remorse at all.
Judge Addison also said Dodson has continued to commit crimes in jail.
In 20 years of practice, I've never seen anything this thorough, detailed, describing the criminal, sadistic behaviors you have exhibited, not only in jail, but towards staff with shanks and ice picks and sexually inexcusable behaviors, assaultive behaviors, constant.
Judge Addison called this one of the saddest situations she's seen in her career.
He wanted to speak, and he said that from day one, and we let him. He told his story. Unfortunately, his story is a story of wreaking absolute havoc on this community.
Dodson still has other assault and murder cases pending in our courts. He was immediately turned over to the Tennessee Department of Corrections to begin his sentence. Kayla Solomon, Fox 13 investigates.
The self-proclaimed serial killer would stand before Judge Carolyn Addison in Shelby County, Tennessee, to hear his punishment. Joshua Dodson, with his face blasted out in tattoos, the 5-point star prevailing on his forehead, would find out that the judge was giving him until the sun burns out. 102 years in state prison. Young Joshua would never see the streets again. Sometimes serial killers don't always look the same. Joshua Dodson would call himself Michael Myers. In his mind, he was a serial killer and had no remorse. But killing seemed to run in the family. 19-year-old Jamisha never knew she was laying in bed with a serial killer until he started to tell her some of the wild things he had done. She'd seen some of them killings on the news, but didn't know it was him. She laid there stunned, not knowing what to do or what to say. Should she run or should she call the police? She didn't want to lose her own life, but she was scared. Thoughts were swirling in her mind. South Memphis has a serial killer on their hands, and she was hoping those cops from First 48 would catch up to him just like they caught up to his uncle and save her and her unborn child's life. But that wouldn't happen. Dodson's mind was playing tricks on him, or was it true? He thought Jamisha was going to leave him, snitch on him, and get him locked up. There was only one way to stop her from talking. She had to become one of his victims. She was scared and wanted out. Jamisha would call her family and tell them, "I'm leaving Joshua, and if anything happens to me, you know it was him." Moments later, something would happen. Joshua would come to her home on Quinn Avenue in South Memphis on a hot June 12, 2020 day. The two would argue about a post on Facebook and Jamisha's pregnancy. Jamisha would go into a room, slamming the door behind her. But Joshua, the self-proclaimed Michael Myers, would have none of it. Jamisha did not know what was about to happen, but today she would lose her life. Joshua would fire a shot through her door. The first one did not hit her, but she knew it just got real. She always knew Josh had a gun on him, but now her biggest fear, after his confessions of murder, were about to come true. Joshua would force his way into the room that he had just fired a shot through and tell Jamisha that he was sorry. The two would begin arguing, and Josh, not having it in him in the moment, would leave without killing her. Why Jamisha did not leave out the house after he had left, no one will ever know. With murder on his mind, Josh would show back up at the cribs hours later. Again, the two would argue, and Jamisha would tell Josh to get out of her house and to get out of her life. But he would have nothing of it. Josh had came here for a reason, and that was to talk to Jamisha. And if she got sideways, he would end her life. He would let the pistol go, hitting Jamisha numerous times as she fell slumped on the ground. Her last breaths in this life were on Quinn Avenue. Both Jamisha and her unborn child were no more. Panic would set in for Josh for the first time in his life. He would go to Facebook posting a memorial for his girlfriend, telling her to fly high. Several people had seen him at the scene. Joshua would go on Facebook and start posting more for the world to see, claiming he had nothing to do with Jamisha's untimely death. Them folks just lying on me, cuz. Say what they want. I ain't do shit. Mimi just got caught up in that life. I was telling Mimi what I'm doing, Dodson would say. But what was he really doing? Did he really smoke other people? Reginald Anderson was at Jesse Turner Park when the young gunner ran into him at 8 p.m. Police would say Joshua jumped out of a brown Cadillac Seville when he seen Reggie and his female friend. Playing no games, Joshua had the pistol already out. Reggie had an issue with Josh's family, and Josh pointed the pistol at him. Come on, man, why are you doing that? You ain't got to do that, Reggie said as he turned to run away. But it would do no good, as Josh, once again, would let shots go, hitting Reggie as he ran away. He would unload until he seen Reggie hit the ground, and then he would turn the pistol on Reggie's female friend, unloading on her as well. Reggie would be left to fly high, now with his son, who also lost his life when he was 17 years old, Cameron Edwards, just months earlier. Before all these killings, he would also take the life of 18-year-old Davion Parker on November 17, 2019, at the South Memphis Market at 1430 Elvis Presley Boulevard. Murder for him was just a game. It was long before the police knew that it was Joshua who was out gunning people down. Once Jamisha's people relayed what was going on and how she told them about the other murders, Josh had committed. Josh would post on Facebook that he was going to turn himself in, but was he? The Memphis police had blew the first 48 hours a long time ago when it came to him gunning down Davion Parker and Reggie. But now the U.S. Marshals were in, and everyone was trying to find Joshua. Within a week, they had him, and now his life was about to become razor wire, concrete, and steel. Josh would go to trial for taking the life of Jamisha, and he still wanted to be the star of the show. His lawyer would tell him not to get on the stand, but he knew his life was over. There was no way he could win. He wanted one last hurrah, and that he got. Josh would tell the jury that he was the person who ended Jamisha's life. He would testify he did it because she snitched on him for the other murders. He told the jurors that he was a serial killer, linking himself to Michael Myers. I am Michael Myers, Josh reportedly exclaimed during testimony, in which he also confessed to 3 additional murders. The comment was an apparent reference to the fictional character of the same name who terrorized teens in the Halloween horror movie series. The jury would take only 45 minutes to convict Josh of taking out Jamisha and her unborn child. What did they really have to talk about? He already told them that he did it. On sentencing day, he knew what was about to happen. Prosecutors asked the judge to shut the door on Josh and give him a 50-year sentence for each charge. Junie Gagnulli, Josh's lawyer, asked the judge to consider giving him only a 50-piece. The lawyer would say Josh accepted responsibility for his conduct. He didn't have to take the witness stand, as if that meant something. Judge Addison then responded, he is a serial killer. He's Michael Myers, remember? That's what he told me, she told Dodson, as she was explaining her sentencing. Not only did Josh not show any remorse during his testimony, there in the trial, I caught him asleep several times. He was getting his rest while we were getting justice. She also said she considered how unremorseful he was on the stand in his confessions to 5 total murders spanning from 2019 to 2020. The judge said more about how Josh was wreaking havoc in the jail as well. In 20 years of practice, I have never seen anything this thorough, detailed, describing the criminal, sadistic behaviors you have exhibited, not only in jail, but towards staff with shanks and ice picks. And inexcusable behaviors, assaultive behaviors, constant. In other words, he is and was a menace, including doing the prison gunning towards female staff. Josh is all in on prison, in other words. The judge would impose a sentence of 102 years in the Tennessee Department of Corrections, where he will now join his uncle, Jesse Dodson. While he might never see Unc, who was on death row for killing 6 people, including multiple family members and children in 2008, they will forever be stuck in the same system until the devil shows up to pick them up. What do you think is going to happen to Josh? Do you think he'll live in prison? Or do you think someone will kill him? Or do you think he'll kill someone else? Leave a comment and tell us your thoughts. Should Josh have gotten the same fate as his uncle? The ultimate penalty? Death?